Check, check, 1, 2. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I hope you can hear and see ourselves. This is the 53rd episode of the Hohner Live. I'm very, very glad. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. I can see you in the chat. And I hope you can also see our very special guest for today. I think he doesn't need any further introduction in the harmonica world. We're all very glad that you're here. Thank you for taking the time to do this. Welcome, Howard Levy.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I don't hear the applause, though. Come on.
Yeah, I want to see like some clapping hands in the chat. Aaron is tuning in. Greetings from Mexico. We have people tuning in from Hamburg too, from Switzerland, from Iran. Yeah, let us know from where you're tuning in.
Yes. It's an amazing community of harmonica players all across the world now. That's one of the side effects of the pandemic. It's actually brought us closer together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree, because there's so much stuff that's happening online and people are sharing their knowledge just as you started to get very consistent where you're just like uploading YouTube videos, which I think everybody appreciates
that's
a lot.
been I'm happy with the effort to try to figure out what the next thing would be, and I learn a lot from doing them too, because some of the things that I'm trying to work on myself, and by filming it and trying to present it to everybody, it makes me have to be better at these things too. Yeah.
I totally understand.
Yeah, I mean, you think you know how to do something until you have to perform it, and that's another level, whether it's for an audience or for a camera. And I had a lot of fun. We have different playlists on the YouTube channel, and one of the ones that I'm really enjoying is that 7 Things in 7. I think I've done 5 of them so far, and I think so much in the rhythm of 7 beats, either 7/4 or 7/8, that sometimes when I hear things in 4/4, they sound wrong.
Yeah.
So that's been a transformative process.
And 5/4 starts to feel like 3/4.
Yeah, I mean, rhythms. That's one of my favorite things to think about. And I know that, I mean, when you brought me to the conservatory there in Hamburg, that was one of the things I talked about. And I was trying to finish this book, but life just sort of derailed the finishing of the book. It's sitting there. Just have to put the examples into finale and do the layout, which is a huge task. But a lot of it was about rhythm and feeling relaxed in all these different time meters, because I see rhythm as it's a big one. And so you can divide the one in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, however many parts you want to divide it in. And if you think about it that way, it's actually not difficult. It's just different.
Yeah.
And there's many cultures in the world where people play in all sorts of different rhythms just naturally.
So what would be your advice for players to start playing in odd time meters?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, just here's simple. Here's a C harp. Hopefully all the holes work. I mean, the natural thing about playing in 7 is that there are 7 notes in a major scale. So when you practice scales, if you play them in 7, it's actually easier to go. And so that is a rhythm of 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. You don't have to double any notes. Nothing comes out in the middle of a bar or someplace funny. Like when you look at scale exercises in books, usually they don't fit evenly in rhythm. So, you can do that any mode, any scale. That's 2 octaves right there.
Yeah.
Or you can divide it the other way, there's 3 ways to divide 7 accent-wise, because all odd time meters are actually just groups of 2s and 3s in different combinations. So here I did 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And the other most common way of playing in 7 would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. So and then the other 7, which hardly anybody plays in, is 2, 3, and 2.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't hear that too often, but it's a 7. And if you just take a step back from thinking about music per se, and it's just numbers, then you can just do all sorts of things in 7, like all the silly little exercises that you learn when you start playing an instrument. They're always written in 4/4. And why? I mean, so that you could do that one in 7, which I just did. And so after you get used to that, because the instrument and the musical scale kind of defines 7 beats, since there are 7 notes on the white keys of a piano, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. It's just something that people shouldn't be intimidated by. Oh, odd time meter. Oh my God, it's hard. Not really. It's just different.
Yeah.
And if you practice things that are different often enough, they feel normal.
Yeah, we'll help you to get some new ideas for 4/4 too.
Yes, that's the other thing is exactly when you take a piece of music and change it around and, like a jazz standard or anything, and play it in an odd time meter, it forces you to figure out your phrases and how to play over chord changes in different ways. And then when you go back to 4/4, it's like, you've had a fresh infusion of ideas, and you have to think about this thing differently. So you have different ideas playing in 4 after you've played something in 7 or 9 or 5 or 11 or 13 or whatever it might be.
Yeah. So for people trying that, what would you recommend? Like, how would you highlight these groups of 2s and 3s? Is it just like more air going through the instrument?
No, I mean, it's just it's a concept. I mean, so it's one, like if you're playing in 5, there's 2 ways to play in 5/8, for example. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So you can actually make the scale come out even in 5 by playing it to the place where it ends, like. That was 3 groups of 5 that went up a little more than 2 octaves. So 2 groups of 5 would go up to the 4th of the 2nd octave. And so it's a good way to practice these things, just to make sure they come out right. You can't make a mistake if you just play them rhythmically. They define their own territory. And then you can do these other exercises, but they're asymmetrical. They're not dun 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 dun. So if you do that in 5, it's. Accenting. That's the most important thing when you think about rhythm.
Yeah.
Is to accent the pulses. You can't play every beat the same way. I mean, even if you're just playing music in 4/4, we don't play every beat with the same amount of force. It's phrasing. It's natural for people to go. Like Charlie Parker, he accented all sorts of little cross rhythms in his playing. And so when you're trying to get familiar with odd time meters, you accent the main pulses of the twos and threes. And so all the little notes they just sort of are there as a byproduct of the pulse, you know. It also swings,
Yeah.
in the true sense of the word. And so, it's just something to start thinking about. And the other thing about it is that since the world is so much more in touch with each other, all these different cultures are starting to interact. I mean, if you go to a place like Berkeley, the famous jazz school in Boston, a tremendous number of the students are from other countries, and bringing all of their different cultural musical influences to this jazz school, which when it started out, everybody who was there was American, with very few exceptions. And so, people coming from Turkey and Bulgaria and India, with all of these different rhythms that they grew up with, they're starting to write jazz tunes with jazz type of harmonies, but in all of these different kinds of rhythms. And so American jazz musicians are now having to learn how to play in 7 and 9 and all these mixed meters, largely as a result of this cultural interaction that is occurring.
That's true.
That's been happening in Europe for a much longer time because Europe is so close to all of these places. But America physically is very isolated from cultures that use odd time meters. I mean, and even Latin America, Central and South America, which has a wealth of rhythmic stuff, Afro-Cuban music, Brazilian music, but it's almost all in 4/4, 3/4, 12/8. You don't find too many people playing in odd time meters in terms of the folk roots of the music in these other countries. Venezuela is an exception. They have a rumba, a merengue in 5, actually. That's really cool.
Okay. Yeah. Tell us in the chat if you've ever played in an odd time meter. Or if you have any questions. More and more people are tuning in. Boris is tuning in from Russia.
Boris.
And Raymond from Riga. You know about him? He's a great chromatic player.
Sure.
I met him in Estonia.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So, the most famous piece probably in an odd time meter that everybody knows that people could try, it would be Take 5 probably, right?
Yeah. That's a very funny thing.
What's your favorite key harmonica to play that in?
I've played it. I mean, I think I used an A flat harp. I think it's not anything I perform on, but basically you can get the bluesiness of E flat. A flat on an A flat harp. E flat is cross harp. So. Whoops! Come on, don't clog up. So the lick fits. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what. Well, I've lost the beat.
Yeah, that's also probably good just for people starting out doing that, just playing the bass line.
Yeah. Usually the solo is just over the E flat minor vamp. So that's up to the individual harmonica player where they feel more comfortable. You might want to play it in third position on a D flat harmonica.
Yeah.
Or
I think I remember doing it. Is that a B in fifth position?
yeah.
Bending the
that
sixth
would work
overblow.
really well. Yeah.
And then the B section is easy.
Yeah. Yeah, that works really well on a B harp. Except you can't get the fifth down there.
Oh yeah.
You have to get the melody. And that brings in the whole issue of overblows and the added expression that you can get on the harmonica using them. And
That's true. Yeah.
This is like I think I did my last video about this.
Exactly.
Because it's something that obviously a lot of people know about, but I just felt like I wanted to just put it out there. And this is overblows are something I started doing when I was 18 in 1969, early 1970, like right after I started playing the harmonica. I started playing in late September. I bent my first note, which was the first day of the rest of my life. And I'm sure that many of you have fond memories of the time you bent your first note and the light bulb flashed and the world changed.
Yeah.
And after a while, and I was already a very good piano player, so after a while I got frustrated that all the notes weren't there, and that's what led me to discover the overblows. And that blew my mind again, because I'd never heard of this before. And actually the name, it's a terrible name, and I know I've told you how I got the name, but a lot of people don't know that there was a sax player that I was playing with in the big band at the university. I was the pianist in the Northwestern University Jazz Band. And I said to my friend Eric, I said, what is it when you blow on one note and a note pops out? He said, it sounds like you're overblowing a harmonic. And I went, oh, okay. And so I called it overblowing. And that's not at all what it is. But I didn't know. What do I know about wind instruments? I'd never played a wind instrument. So I thought sax player must know the answer. So we can take that overblow, which gives you the minor third of the sixth tone, but you can stretch that note as high as the adjustment on your harmonica and the degree of customization allows you. And so here you want to bend it up to, which is the flatted fifth, up to the fifth. And then I do something else when I play it. I slide over the fourth hole overblow, the way a guitarist, like the way George Benson will, slide over a fret on a guitar. And that's exactly how I'm thinking about it. Sometimes I don't use overblows as notes, I use them as little slides, the way that you would use a slide on the chromatic.
Yeah.
And then the same thing on the fifth hole. So that wherever you can
it
get
also helps me to hide bad intonation.
Ooh, don't talk about that. Those are those nasty comments that we get on our videos. There were 5 notes that were out of tune. This guy sucks. Well, yeah. Well,
Boris just wrote into the chat that he usually plays take 5 on a low F sharp in 4th position.
Oh, but that's weird because then you'd have to.
I don't know.
On a low F sharp, they have to overblow the fourth hole to get that flatted
Yeah,
fifth.
maybe it's in the upper octave only. Yeah,
The upper octave.
it's a little low for the overblow.
Yeah. Well, there's compromises, and there's no wrong answer to this question. That's what's so cool about it, that we have 12 instruments here, and it's a matter of choice which one you decide to play it on. And I know my friend in Brazil, oh my God, what's it, Octavio? Octavio. He plays everything on a C harp. So this would be, an incredible, like a desert island thing, we call it. Like, if you're isolated and, you're the last person on earth and you've survived and you've reached this desert island, swimming, holding your C harp up in your hand, swimming with one arm, and you survive and you get to this island and there's actually food there and beautiful women or whatever. But you have your harmonica and you got to do everything on that one. And so this is a challenge. My goodness, how do you make it sound believable on a C harp? First you don't pick it up upside down. Now, I personally like lower harps better because they're more forgiving of bends, of the intonation on bends.
Yeah.
I've never tried this on a C harp, but it's something that, with rare exception, if you have enough control over this instrument, the diatonic harmonica, you can make stuff sound good in just about any key on whatever harp is comfortable for you to play. So that's, another aspect of the instrument. Instead of let's find the best key harp, it's like let's try to play this thing in whatever key it is in on the harp that we like to play. That's a whole other angle.
Barrow is asking, Howard, how about a video about odd symmetric patterns and fourths chainings you sometimes insert in your playing on harmonica?
All asymmetric patterns and groups of fourths, is that what he's asking
odd
about?
symmetric patterns and fourths chainings, that's what he writes.
Oh, yeah, actually, when I was giving you lessons that we were doing, I had some things like that.
We're doing a lot of fourths, yeah.
And one of my last videos that I put up, actually, I played quite a few things in fourths. All these kind of patterns. It's very visual, and there are many different sides to this. And sort of the tune that sparked off the interest for me and many other jazz musicians was Eddie Harris's tune, Freedom Jazz Dance, which is movement like that. Using a lot of fourths, which on the harmonica is really tricky because it cuts across all of the blow draw patterns and all of the different techniques that you need. So you pick a symmetrical pattern like, this is a B flat harp. I don't know why I picked it up, but I did. But I'm just making up a pattern and I'm moving it up in major thirds, believe it or not. So. And then you try to go down with it. I'm just making this one up. I can't reverse my thought process right now. I'm sorry. I'll come up with a different one going down.
Yeah.
But when you do invent these patterns, what's interesting is ascending and then trying to reverse your thought process and do it descending. So I'm going up. So going up in fourths, down to fifth, 2/4, and then a whole step, and then a fourth. And then going down a whole step to start the pattern again, but it's a major third up from where I started. So these are like, kind of like the musical equivalent to finding your way out of a maze, like you know what I'm talking about, And you can just make these things up as I do. I've never read any of these out of books.
Yeah.
And it's something I've thought about maybe making a book, but actually Eddie Harris wrote a book called Intervalistic Methods of Improvisation. I can't remember exactly what, but he explored a lot of this stuff because he was super into that. And there's another Chicagoan, he's a very brilliant guy who had a very interesting and long jazz career.
Oh, yeah. So
that's a good question.
Many viewers out there are probably aware of you visualizing the piano keyboard in your head. But there might be some people out there who never played pianos. So what would you recommend to them, like starting to dive into that stuff and getting some sort of visual representation of it?
Well, the good thing is that, well, here's my piano here. I'm very lucky to be the temporary custodian of this Steinway, which is going to be around long after I'm gone. It's my first love, really, the piano. But for those who just are starting on harmonica, having no other instrument as a frame of reference, it makes it really hard because harmonica is invisible. The names of the notes don't make any sense. Well, here's a C. Well, here's an E. So what? I mean, you're just blowing into a hole. In order to understand the names of the notes, the keyboard is really what the names of the notes are based on. Because if you don't visualize the keyboard, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F. Hey, what about E sharp? You'd ask, that's a very sensible question. But the way the keyboard is set up, there's no black key between the E and the F. I mean, so it's like E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, and then C. It's like, hey, where's B sharp? So, I mean, there are really decent, cheap keyboards available that anyone can afford. I mean, there are ones that actually sound good for like $100. Like Yamaha makes some that actually have a good sample piano sound in them. I got one for my dad, who's a singer, because he needed to be able to figure out what notes he was singing, And so I would just recommend, just get a keyboard so that you understand the visual framework. And of course, if you are already a guitarist, I mean, that's another whole scheme of the geometry of the guitar neck. You don't need to know a keyboard if you're a guitarist. But horn players, sax players, trumpet players, trombone players, whatever they might be, especially the brass players, and especially in jazz, like all of the great jazz horn players could all play piano. Some of them were very excellent pianists. And, someone like John Coltrane, he worked out his compositional ideas, a lot of them, on the piano. And he wasn't a great pianist, but he had a knowledge of theory, and this is the only place where you could play a chord, chord voicings like that, so that your single notes, when you're playing them on a horn, they're fitting into a framework of harmony, of chord. And that's the way I see things when I'm playing over chord changes. I'm seeing the keyboard in my head, I'm seeing those things before I play the notes. I'm seeing where I'm going based on this vision of the keyboard. And actually, Toots Thielman had the same thing. When we met he told me, he said he called it keyboard vision.
Oh, yeah.
His first instrument was the accordion, the keyboard accordion. And so even though the chromatic has a button that gives you more definition and you don't have to find notes, somewhere in a bend, it still helps to understand the keyboard idea. And this is a G harp, by the way, because I don't know if everybody knows or no one knows or whatever, but when I started playing, and I went to the music store in New York where I bought my first harmonica, my first Hohner, which was a Marine band in G. I asked the guy behind the counter, what's a good harmonica to get? He said, well, you could get a C or a G, or I like the G more because it's lower. I went, okay, I'll buy a G. The guy behind the counter at Manny's.
It's a good key.
Says, just get a G. I went, okay, how much is it? $2.25 at the time in 1969. And so I put my money down, and I couldn't play anything on it. It's like, oh my God, what am I getting myself into here? Because one of the guys in my band in high school, who was the drummer, he taught himself how to play harp. And I thought, the drummer can do it. Certainly, I, the pianist, can do this. And I couldn't until that one day when, for whatever happened in my head. So I see the piano as a G harp. That's what I see. And I can do that on some other ones, but not as well. And I taught myself how to read, as you have, on several different harmonicas, transpose reading. And that's a whole other thing, is being able to read music on this instrument is very difficult, because we're spending so much of our energy just trying to play the notes in tune on the bends, much less looking at little black dots on a page and trying to play them in real time, like, in a band, and understanding chord changes. And if you're playing in jazz, like, oh, let me try this on an A harp. Well, then you have to transpose all the chord changes somehow in your mind, make some sense out of them. No, it fits better on a D. Oh, you have to think about it totally differently. So there's a lot of issues with reading music and reading notes or harmonies or chord changes on the harmonica, diatonic.
Yeah, there are just harmonica tabs everywhere.
Well, that's a whole other thing.
To that.
Well, but it's funny. When I was playing with Rabbi Abu Khalil, the great composer and oud player, back in the mid-'90s, and he was living in München, and so he had these bands of European, Middle Eastern, and American musicians, and his charts, I should have one here, they were written out in all different kinds of key signatures, like the way that Arab music theory is, not like two sharps is D or B minor. Like, they were like, they could be two sharps and a flat, or, three sharps and two flats, or whatever, for the given scale that it was in.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to read these melodies, which are full of 16th notes, and I'm going, oof, it's hard enough to read. And like, what harmonica should I use for this? So there were these two sides of the problem.
Yeah,
and the other
you start out trying one, and then like at one point it's like, no, I can't do this. I gotta try another one, like in bar 66.
Oh, well, not so much that. I would just sit in rehearsals. The other guys were really great readers. This amazing tuba player, a French guy named Michel Godard, and he could read anything. And I'm there feeling like the dumb guy. It's like, hey, just give me a minute. I have to figure out which harmonica to play this on so it'll sound good. Not just that I read the notes. And so then I came up with stuff like, for some of the Middle Eastern scales, I mean, this is a G harp. For example, if I was playing, this sort of a Phrygian, I'm playing, as you know, the key a half step above the key of the harp, which probably no one before me ever did. And it would have been easier for me, to play Phrygian on some other harmonica.
Yeah.
But somehow or other, on a slow tempo, and it gave me the option of bending the tonic up to a half step. And it really blew my mind, and it sounded more like the way he was playing the oud when I was doubling his melodies. So I was trying it from many different angles and just trying to make this instrument sound as good and as musically appropriate as possible. And I mean, this is what I've always tried to do. Whatever kind of music I'm playing, I just try to make the harmonica sound great, as good as I can make it sound. And so that's why we have this palette of 12 different instruments. I mean, and I'm talking about a standard Richter-tuned harmonica. Now, of course, this brings up another issue, all the different tunings that exist now, like Brendan Powers' tunings and other people's tunings, and they're great. I mean, they sound fantastic. I go, whoa, maybe I should use those on this tune. And then I always go, no, my job, make this thing sound as good as I can. And that's what I really believe. I mean, that's my mission on this instrument.
Yeah.
And I think Brendan, personally, is a genius. I mean, the stuff he comes up with, and he's a great harmonica player, too. And, being able to bend every note, some of these ones with helper reeds in them, the super benders, and I mean, it's brilliant ideas.
It is.
But I try to do it from this angle,
Yeah. Yeah, and the Phrygian sounded great in that key. You already answered Shervin's question. He wanted to hear some Phrygian. Boris asks, are you familiar with negative harmony, Jacob Collier?
Well, I've heard Jacob Collier. Obviously, he's like a musical. I don't even know what the word is. There's no word. He's unique, and an unbelievable facility that he has with music is terrifying as a vocalist and instrumentalist. But I don't know what negative harmony is.
Okay, to your mind, is it worthwhile to give meaningful practice time to more difficult positions? I tend to focus on 12th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and so on in my own dedicated scale practice.
Well, obviously the answer is yes. I mean, but it's whatever. There's two sides to it. One, you want to sound good. I mean, so if you're performing, you don't want to play stuff that doesn't sound good in front of an audience.
Yeah, I think we're practicing a lot of stuff that at home that we don't play on stage.
Right. Until you're ready. And that's one of the things that I decided that at one point that I really wanted to play blues in 5th position. And I put a video up on my YouTube channel, this thing. It's B, blues in B. I can't play this at the same time. It gives you bends and shadings that you can't get in any other position. It's really wild. All sorts of licks.
It's always great to feature those strengths of these positions, yeah.
5th position. I mean, major, not minor. And not Phrygian, So in order to do this, you have to practice like crazy to avoid going, whoops, Don't hit that flat second. We're playing blues. We're not in the Middle East here. and it's just a wonderful, wonderful feeling and position once you get used to it. A year ago, I couldn't have done that. So, and I'm really old. I'm 97. No, but I've been playing harmonica for a long time. And there's always more to find. So the answer to your question is yes, it's really worth practicing in these other positions.
Yeah.
And for example, I'll give you another example of something that I just started doing this last week. A piece that I am known for playing. I might be overloading the mic, sorry. It's My One and Only Love, thank you. And I play it in first flat position or 12th position, C on a G harp. I just decided, why don't I try to play it in fourth position major? Then I'd have to play it in E on the piano. Oh, see, I can't do it yet. I just started doing this like a few days ago.
Yeah.
And fourth position is a key that you normally wouldn't think of as major with the major seventh. I love the way it sounds. I mean, wow, it's so...
That's so true.
I've been playing now for more than 50 years on harmonica. And so if I can still find new stuff, like just the amount of people, if you take this attitude of exploration of the instrument, there's no limit to what you can find, you know? And how much it will improve your playing.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I sometimes think of the harmonica. I used to do wood carving. Have I ever told you about this?
About wood carving? A little, yeah.
And so, when you carve through the grain of wood, depending on the angle that you carve at, you get different designs. And so it's a similar thing here. The grain of the harmonica, if you think about it, when you blow and you draw, these are these straight lines of the grain. But crossing the grain, you get slightly different designs every time you cross the grain at a different angle. Play the major scale in all 12 keys, there's a G again. And so I think of it sometimes, these visual images in my head that are not just the keyboard, but they're shapes and colors and designs as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so there are a ton of questions in the chat right now. I don't know if we can get to all of them. Frederick is asking, how do you manage to play chords and melody at the same time?
Oh, that's easy. Just be sloppy. No. I mean, the instrument was originally made to be able to do that. mean, that's what it was made to do.
Yeah.
So
Maybe he was talking about playing the chords on the piano and playing the melody on harmonica.
that. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I see the harmonica in my head as a piano. So if I'm playing, this is my right hand, you know. Yeah. That's what's going on. And so, and that and the other thing, and also being in bands, in several bands like the Flecktones and Trio Globo, where the sound of the band is me being 1.5 people, you know, playing both instruments at certain points or all the way through certain tunes. I had to work on my ability to do this in concert. Actually, one of my favorite Trio Globo tunes, or tunes period, where I play piano and harmonica simultaneously, is called In the Village, from the Steering by the Stars Trio Globo album. And that was all played live, the piano and harmonica stuff, and on a C-harp. And it was they were actually filming it, although I'm not sure that the film of that is available, but it made me want to do it even more, because there's these 3 cameras, and it's like, am I gonna like cop out and go, well, this is too hard, I'll just play the piano and then I'll overdub the harmonica? It made me want to do it more.
Yeah.
Like, I show people what I actually do, and I think it came out better, because I was playing a rhythmic pattern. I can't remember which hand had the rhythmic pattern. Was it the left hand? Probably in the wrong octave, but it's a Brazilian part called Partijo Alto. To try to do that, but I was reinforced by this great cello and percussion.
Yeah.
So it just became this thing that just happened, and I improvised the harmonica part totally. I wasn't playing any written melody, but I was looking at the chord changes. So I was reading the changes and playing them with my left hand and improvising the harmonica part. And like I said, I'm just incredibly proud of that track, In the Village.
Yeah.
That's probably the best example of my simultaneous playing. I'm not the best, but my favorite.
Yeah, those are some incredible recordings. Boris is asking, what is the lowest key harp you are comfortable playing the 4-hole overblow?
Oh, that's a good question. It's whatever the lowest key harp I'm comfortable playing the 4th hole overblow on is. I don't know. I haven't thought about it, but probably like the low D or something like that, you know.
Okay.
Low E flat.
Barrow is asking, what's the weirdest technique you ever discovered?
I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. Some things that are unusual. I mean, I'm just pick up an A flat. I'm not sure I can do it. Playing that 4th, that's a really weird one. That's the 6th hole draw bend and the 7th hole overdraw. So.
Oh.
So you
Wow.
got 3 adjacent 4ths there, you know. I'm waiting to use that one.
I never did that. Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, the stuff. bending one note and holding the other one, trying to, getting those wave beats between the second hole draw, bent down a half step, and the third hole. And I actually was inspired to do that by listening to Guzle singing from Serbia or Croatia, it's Bosnia, I don't know. But it was these two guys would sing these weird patterns in really strange intervals and sometimes in really close intervals. And that's where I got the idea to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely a weird technique. Another question: is it possible to play harmonica with brackets?
You mean with a neck holder?
Or like with brackets in your teeth?
Oh, with braces.
Braces?
I don't know. I would say that that's probably. You'd have to ask someone else. I don't know. I know that it does keep people from playing wind instruments that go between your teeth. But the harmonica doesn't really use your teeth on the instrument. So I would say probably yes, but you might want to put some sort of padding. I mean, that's what people have to do. Some sort of padding to keep the braces from cutting your lips.
Okay. Yeah. He also has another question. Is it possible an effect opposite to bending and overblow, where instead of forcing the reed to vibrate faster, make it vibrate slower, and thus make a reed sound lower than its pitch?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can. I have done that by accident a few times.
Yeah, it really depends on the setup of the harmonica, right?
Yeah.
I'm really good on the 6-hole blow here.
Well, yes, before it overblows. It's like what happens with a chromatic. The way you bend on a chromatic, you just bend the pitch down. And it works sometimes with lower notes on I don't know. I've had like weird luck bending down like 2 blow on some low harps if I'm in the right frame of mind. Yeah, it can make blow notes or like notes that you can't bend a little more expressive sometimes, right? Yeah.
That sounds like a chromatic.
It did. I'm sorry to say. It also sounded like a dog that someone's stepping on his tail.
Boris says, I've heard you can play tongue split octave trill between 2 double bend and 5-hole draw.
I can't do it. I've never tried.
Wow.
Well, I can play the octave, obviously, but I don't know how to play a tongue trill between them. Can you do that?
I don't know. I wouldn't trill with my tongue. I would just like go side to side with a tongue block technique, blocking
I've
2
never
holes.
thought about
I'm on the C.
Yeah.
Like that. But I can't keep the 2-hole draw band. Maybe if I practice.
See, that's what you ask a good question, and that's what makes everyone all over the world start doing something. Yeah. Thank you for asking.
I can do these octaves.
Wow. Yeah, I've never tried that.
Also the ones with where you're blocking 3 holes. W
I've never tried that.
But that's just a few diatonic notes, right?
I've only done, which is usually just with 1 note, a sixth or But I don't do that a lot. No.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, I feel like that. There's a lot of stuff to discover, like with like people getting very intense with like tongue switching as they do on the chromatic, doing that stuff on the diatonic.
Yeah, and also different models of diatonic are easier to do it on, depending on how curved the comb is and all that other stuff,
Yeah.
So
Oh, I like this question. Gabrielle is asking, do you think it is bad to switch harmonicas? I think sometimes there's no choice if you want to make it for music.
Yeah, there's a friend of mine who used to say, if it sounds good, it is good. And if it doesn't sound good without switching, yeah, then by all means switch. I do it in recordings sometimes. If there's a really specific thing that I'm playing for some singer
Yeah.
who wants a specific thing behind the vocal, then I'll do it. I'll try not to, but if it sounds better doing it, I'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Live,
I think I
really
remember there's like one solo, maybe on Rocket Science, where you switch within the solo.
Well, that was punched in, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were certain things. There was one old Flecktones album where we were doing the Star of the County Down, and the melody just is very simple, you know. But I somehow didn't like the way it sounded as much in crossharp on a G. It was very slow in a 12/8, and I liked that. And on the recording, we punched in that one note.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Or those two notes, because I liked the slide up to that, and it didn't sound the same. Of course, I mean, no one would have cared if I had done it on the G harp,
But harmonica players could hear.
I cared, and so it confused people. Actually, what harmonica did he use?
Special tuning.
No.
Philip Durs is tuning in. What microphone are you using?
I thought no one would ever ask.
Love the sound of the Sennheiser, but this one is more open, airy, and crisp.
Yeah, I record 90 for anything acoustic. 99% of the time, I use the same mic that Konstantin has. This is the fantastic German Sennheiser 441. I think it says MD, and also 441 MD. This is a beautiful mic. It's a dynamic mic. No phantom power needed, and it's not a condenser. And somehow it sounds richer than just about anything. But this weird thing, it's a company called Ear Trumpet out of Portland, Oregon. And a lot of acoustic musicians use these. And they're surprising sounding. They sound very rich, and they're more open. So I actually used it on one album with Samo Salomon, the great guitarist from Slovenia, where we recorded a duo album, and I just liked the way it sounded better to go along with his guitar playing than the Sennheiser in that given studio that we were in. I just said, well, I brought them both with me.
Yeah.
I don't like the way this sounds on live. If I'm playing in a situation where the band is loud, it just picks up way too much other stuff and squashes it. But in a controlled environment, I think it's real pleasing sounding, and it's not that expensive. I think the list price is $600 for one of these. And they have a whole line of these microphones, and they're all interesting, and they all sound good.
Yeah.
This is called the Edwina. They're all named after women with sort of old-fashioned names. They have the Myrtle, the Edwina. I can't remember the other ones. Yeah.
Well, yeah, people are always interested in gear.
I recently got a Bulletini.
Oh, yeah.
And,
oh, did you hear that sound? Somebody subscribed to my Twitch channel.
Oh. I mean, I love this little mic. It would help if I turned it on, though. Yeah. And that's just going through a Lone Wolf Boogeyman pedal with a little delay on it. And, of course, I prefer to play this through a speaker. It sounds way better than just going straight into this little board. But these are really nice mics for the distortion stuff, and which I love doing.
Yeah.
I love playing handheld distortion, and I've done quite a bit of it over the years. It's just that people don't associate with me with playing like that.
Yeah, I should get a bullet microphone again. I think I sold mine at some point.
I have a lot of them. I have an old Turner, and I have a green bullet from the early '70s that I played on a lot of recordings. All of them sound good if you put it through the right stuff. You've got to match the mic with whatever box you have or whatever amp you have. And the rule of thumb is it's good to have a preamp, a volume control, and a master volume control. That's how you crunch a tube, and it almost always works better with tubes. Yeah. So the more crunch you want, the less master volume, the more channel volume, and it's just a matter of balance. And then the amount of bass and treble that you personally prefer. I prefer way more bass than treble, but every mic and every amp and every harp actually you change it. Just like you watch blues guitarists messing with their pickups while they're playing. It's just it's an art, and I really like those little Dutch amps, the Marble. They're fantastic.
Yeah, that's true. Even the very small ones, they have a lot of power and sound great.
Great. I just plug a mic in, any mic practically, and I was like, wow, man, this is an instant tone. I almost bought one, but I was on tour of Europe and I couldn't quite figure out how to get it home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you wouldn't mind, let me just have a sip of something here. Just 1 second.
Yeah. Babak is in the chat. Babak Safarnejad. We're really looking forward to the upcoming Twitch challenge. It's always the last Sunday of the month, and on, I think that's September 26th, we're going to do a film music challenge. So you can really choose what you want to play, as long as it is part of a movie. It's allowed. So I think we get very, very different submissions this time. Very open. So check out the description box if you want to participate. Yeah.
So I don't know if you, can I just talk about a few of the things that I've been up to?
Yeah, definitely. That's what we want to know. And also, everyone out there, check out the description box below. I added all the links to Howard's social media and website.
Yeah, my website is pretty complete now. My wife has actually totally revamped it. She did a great job. So you can find pretty much any of my recordings and a lot of sheet music, downloads, everything is there. And including a lot of the live streams that we did last year during the pandemic. I did a series of 10 called Thursday Night Happening. And we raised thousands of dollars for a Chicago food depository, which feeding hungry people when unemployment was at its absolute worst. And there were people lining up for food.
Yeah.
It was just a terrible situation. I'm sure this happened all over the world. And I decided to raise money for where I live, because here, this is where I live, man. So I felt really good about that. And also managed to put out 3 albums during this last year. One of them was solo piano improvisations called Looking Inward, which is really unlike anything I've ever recorded before.
Yeah, how did that come about? Because you didn't really plan on recording a solo piano record, right?
No, I wanted to, but I wanted it to be of these compositions that I've worked on for years. And this one just sort of happened by accident, originally inspired by my wife wanting me to play some music that went along with an audiobook that she was reading. And then it turned into much more.
Yeah.
And I started imagining scenarios in my head. And so I was improvising to sort of visual images and little scenes that were in my mind. And I did a lot of these. And I have like this very beautiful piano here. And it was after I recovered from the virus. You know, I got the virus in March of 2020, unfortunately. And so I did this like 2 months, 3 months. No, I can't remember how many months afterwards. It was sometime in the summer of late spring of 2020. And I have a lot of music left over. I don't know what to do with it. Some of it was synthesizer stuff that I did for her books. That ended up being really interesting. All sorts of stuff in odd time meters, and it all had kind of a contemplative feeling to it. And then I put out a wonderful concert that I did with the great swing and jazz mandolinist Jethro Burns called Howard and Jethro, a live concert that I found on a cassette tape in my attic, and it sounds really great. I'm very proud of that one. And then my crowning achievement was the audiobook version of my book, Songs, Poems, and Stories, that I put out about 3 years ago. So my wife said, "You got to do an audiobook." You know, I said, "Oh, that's a really good idea." Okay. So I can read the poems, I can tell the stories, have some musical background. And then I realized I have to sing 12 songs. Oh my God, because the lyrics are in there. And these are things that I wrote over a span of 45 years, covering so many different styles. And it was a huge challenge for me. And I also played all the instruments. And I'm my own engineer, my own producer, my own singer, unfortunately. And everything I did on many different instruments, percussion, piano, flutes, of course, harmonica. And I used a few loops. On 2 tunes, I think I used loops. And one of them, it just organically fits the music really beautifully. And mandolin, actually, on one tune. And I'm very proud of it. I'm not going to sing for you right now.
Yeah, but you can check it out on Howard's website.
Yeah, it's called, the vocal album, which we separated from the audiobook, is called 12/45, which means 12 songs written over a span of 45 years. And it's in every different style. There's even one that's a hip hop thing.
Okay.
About PTSD, based on true stories from 3 guys that I knew who were in Vietnam, various different conflicts, and also Iraq. The things that they told me, basically that's the words of the song, are almost word for word things that they told me. And one of them killed himself, actually. And the other one, I don't tell this story, but I actually saved the other guy's life by talking him out of shooting himself one day. So these are things that are very, very profound, and it just, I started thinking about it as I was driving one night, and I came up with the opening line. But the other ones some of them are funny. There's actually some lyric videos up. One of them is called Up Here on the 83rd Floor. That's like a stride piano thing, or like a satire of people who live above the rest of us, based on a true thing that when I was a furniture mover back when I was 22 years old, I moved a guy into the 83rd floor of the Hancock Building, and it just made me start thinking about it. And I wrote the song in the 1970s. And there's another one called Night in New York, which is based on my experiences trying to live in Manhattan in the early 70s, it was really crazy back then. It was very dangerous. So all different kinds of music, some jazz, some folky stuff, and some Brazilian sounding things. And I'm just surprised that I actually did this. And I'm actually proud that I was able to finish the project and put it out.
Yeah.
And then the new one, which I've just been debating whether or not to make it a physical CD, because I'm still not playing anywhere live, and getting distribution for physical product now is almost impossible unless you're on a big label. And it's called Duets with Friends, and there are 5 tunes that I played over a span of 2 days in 1990 with two of them on piano with a fantastic conga player named Joe Rendon, who I played with for many years in Chevrolet de Chicago, the great Latin jazz band that I was music director of. And two of them are with a guy who actually lives in Bremen, Germany now, named Willy Schwartz. And he's a fantastic musician on many instruments. But here we did a duet with him on tabla and me on harmonica. It's about 14 minutes long. And another one with him on mridangam and me on harmonica. And the tabla one is a really wild, I got to get this thing out. I had him play in a rhythmic cycle of 12 beats, which is called ektal, but at 1/4 speed, so that every beat was like 4 beats long. So instead of being 12 bars like it ended up being a 12-bar blues, but instead of being 12 bars of 4/4, it was 1 bar of 12/1. I mean, 12 bars of 12/1, where each beat in the cycle is a bar. And of course, it's ornamented in between. It's an amazing sound. I don't, it's actually, I probably have some version of it on my phone. Could I just play a few seconds?
Yeah.
It's just got like such an amazing, I hope I can find it. I called it Ektal Vilambit Blues. And I hope this is the right version of it. We'll see what happens. Vilambit means slow. It's the slow tempo in Indian music. And Madhya is medium and Gat is fast. So each beat is a bar. Oh, this is not the right version. It's obviously too soft. It's really soft. Shoot. I'll just turn it up. Anyway, it just keeps going. And it was one of those things, it's the only time that we ever played anything like that. And it was in the studio, and I just felt like I had all the time in the world. The time just constantly was opening up in front of me, and I just had idea after idea. And of course, he interacted with my phrasing too. It wasn't just a set pattern. And this was one of the most wonderful experiences I've ever had in a recording studio, was the feeling that I felt like I was just in this other space, and I could have gone on forever. And it changed between different modes and major and minor. Yeah. I was playing in third position on an A harp. That was a Golden Melody. That's what I was using back then. No customized harps, 1990. I had not met Joe Falisco yet. He was just probably in high school at that time or whatever. I was recording on a beautiful microphone. It was a Neumann U49. You familiar with those?
Oh, yeah.
Big, beautiful, big diaphragm mic. The studio had a lot of wonderful mics. And no headphones. And he was sitting over there, and I was sitting across from him in a chair, I think. And
pretty comfy.
so anyway, That's like for me like the most important thing on this album in a certain way, because it's a unique thing. And the other ones are free improvisations with Joe Rondon, stuff that we had never done before on various different Afro-Cuban rhythms on piano, and it's some of my favorite piano playing I've ever done. I forgot about these things, and luckily the studio people who own it, they're still around and they're friends of mine, and they found the original recordings, which were on a very early digital format, and they transferred them to digital files so I could put them into Pro Tools.
Yeah.
And then there's another one that's a duet with a wonderful bass player named Kelly Sill, who's on my NBV quintet album as well. Just fantastic jazz bassist. We played a standard together, and it's very creative and beautiful. And then the last one, I had to put this one on, is a live duet. I think I might have sent you this with Anthony Molinaro of a tune that we wrote together on rhythm changes, the standard chord progression. And it's called Sketchy. Basically, I wrote the melody, and then he plays this incredibly tortured stride piano based on dotted quarter notes. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's da, da, boom, da, 1 and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it sounds like we're playing in two different rhythms at once. And it was live, and it was the best we ever played it. luckily recorded. So I just, sometimes when things are old, they're not worse. I mean, they're unique, and these were unique moments in time, and I want to get it out there because I'm proud of the music. At the same time as I'm continuing to work on new things and try to refine my playing and learn how to do things that I never could do before, because now that I'm not performing, I've got a lot of time to practice. And I'm also starting to write a second concerto.
Yeah.
Based on Eastern European and Gypsy themes, and it's going to be for piano and harmonica, both, and orchestra. So I'm excited about that. A lot of Bulgarian rhythms and a lot of very exotic scales and all sorts of elements in it. I have the main themes, and quite a bit actually of it's 4 movements of the first, second, and fourth movements. A lot of the material is already there, and some of it is on paper. And the third movement is going to be a scherzo, which is like a playful interaction rhythmically, where the harmonica is mostly a rhythmic instrument, having a conversation with the orchestra.
Okay.
So sort of a little bit of comedy almost interjected into the piece. So this is a major task.
So how can people stay updated on these endeavors?
Well, there's a lot, and I'm also writing my memoirs. I have 80 stories written. Some nights I just remember stuff that happened, 5 years ago or 50 years ago or whatever, that all have to do with music. And I've been writing it all down and working on it, trying to write words as well as I write music, and it's a challenge. But it's no use in putting it out if it's not well written and doesn't grab people's attention, geez, a lot of stuff. And then, of course, my Artist Works Harmonica School, which is continuing, and I'm extremely proud of it. I know you were a member for a while, and you sent me all those wonderful videos.
I wish I could log in again and check out the old video exchanges.
Well, I could arrange that. I know some people at Artist Works, Sure.
Just to maybe screen record my first submission or something.
Oh, no, I'll ask them. Yeah, you can get the VIP pass, and I have students from all over the world. I think the only continent that has not been represented so far is Antarctica. But I hear there's some penguins who are learning how to play. All right.
So you can check out all of that in the description box. There are a lot of questions, but there's one left that I care about a lot. So Nathan is asking, are there any good exercises to match the timbre between draws, blows, and overbands?
I would say it's the imagination in your head, like to try to unify your sound to emulate an instrument, not the harmonica. To think about, like, what would a violin sound like playing all this stuff? Or what would a tenor sax sound like? Or a trumpet? That's what I would do.
That sounds wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All right.
if there aren't any questions left, I mean that's a nice closing. I really like what you said. Yeah, I think people should check out the description box. Stay updated. You're putting out the YouTube videos very regularly now, so also consider to subscribe on YouTube. Yeah.
Yes, that would be great. The more subscribers we have, the happier we are. And yeah, check out the website, the YouTube channel. I post things on Facebook too. I think I'm going to start doing some live streams as well.
Okay.
I really miss performing, even though live streams are. I actually have some coming up, but they're like kind of. Some of them are more public, some of them are more private. But I think I'm going to start initiating some of them here myself. And who knows? I mean, I have so much music I can play, so it could be anything.
That sounds great. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Yeah.
Well, great to see you. I'm happy to see you looking so healthy. I'm sure you're still running all the time and you keep yourself active. I wish I were a little more active, but we walk around, these lakes that are around here, and I work out a little bit.
Yeah.
I do a lot of push-ups on the piano.
Yeah, it definitely helps if you're like sitting in front of your desk most of the time.
Yeah. Sitting. We're doing way too much sitting.
It's true.
Even when I play online, I'm sitting most of the time. I'm not standing up and playing the way I would on stage.
Yeah.
It's I miss it. I really do. All right. Well, Konstantin, thank you so much for asking me, and thanks to everybody at Hohner. And I send sincerely send my love to everybody in Trossingen who is watching, and of course the folks at Hohner USA, my friends in Nashville. Fantastic company. To me, they're the real harmonicas. I mean, I've tried a lot of other brands, and there's something good about everyone's instruments. But to me, Hohner's are. I don't think I could have done what I did without Hohner's, because the overblows just worked naturally on so many of them, just right out of the box in 1969 and 70, and it's just that's not true of most other brands. Even today, you pick up like a Golden Melody, especially the overblows work most of the time on most of the notes where you need them.
Yeah.
So I just felt like I had to do that. I do a shout out to the people who are sponsoring this. I'm very proud to play Hohner's.
And there might be something new about the Golden Melody soon too.
Oh yeah, I remember I was doing some testing of some of that before the pandemic, and so I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Okay. Yeah. Things must have been extremely difficult to keep production going in these times.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm sure.
Oh man.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for your questions. People are looking forward to your live streams. And yeah, I hope you have a nice evening or great day wherever you are. Check out the description box below. Consider to record and practice for the film music challenge with Babak from Iran. And I'm going to see you next week with another Hohner Live here on the Hohner channel. That's Thursday, 9 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Howard. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.